Hello everyone, Alec Alger the SideQuest Gamer here, and it's the year 2015, meaning that it is officially, well, give or take, 10 years since the Xbox 360 hit store shelves in 2005, marking the beginning of the 7th generation of consoles. So you know what that means? It officially means that I am old. Well, not really, but the PS2, the GameCube, and the original Xbox are officially retro consoles, and the games that they play, well, they're retro games. Yay! I'm old. I mean, think about it. If 19 and 20-year-old gamers are talking about their childhoods being marked with the PS2 and such, that is officially retrospective. Retro games, retrospective. Put them together, they're retro games, no matter how you look at them. I mean, they're not exactly modern games, am I right? Well, without further ado, let's take a look at an underrated PS2 gem called War of the Monsters. You may or may not have heard of it. It has a cult following. Sales were not exactly high. I mean, there were so many games for the PS2 to choose from, and it's not uncommon for games like War of the Monsters to be overshadowed by the likes of Grand Theft Auto or, I don't know, Gran Turismo. I mean, sure, they're different genres, but keep in mind, some genres are more popular than others. Let's take a look at War of the Monsters. But before we start, I apologize in advance for the rather crude method of capturing PlayStation 2 footage because my capture device couldn't do it. I'm sorry. I will be sure to get a better capture device this June so I can do the Jak and Daxter trilogy. So anyways, let's roll the footage and take a look at War of the Monsters. War of the Monsters is an arena fighting game similar to the likes of Rampage and of course the Godzilla games. It was developed by Incognito Entertainment, who previously developed the acclaimed Twisted Metal Black for the PS2, and of course the game was published by Sony, and evidently a lot of effort was put into this game. Now, it may look like a Godzilla game, but trust me, it's not. It's completely its own thing and pays homage to the 1950s and 60s monster movies that were popular during that time. The character roster consists of Togera, who's an homage to Godzilla, Kongor, of course, is a tribute to King Kong, and there's a ton of monsters that pay homage to tons of monster movies from the past, and that's the charm of the game. This game is so much fun, I'm telling you. The arenas are giant cities with destructible buildings and architecture, which makes it really satisfying when you pick up an enemy and throw them at the buildings when you stun them. The structure would collapse and the opponent would know it is not winning this fight today. It's worth noting that every city is surrounded by a force field, so it's not like you can just leave. You can also pick up cars and throw them at your opponents, but you can also throw debris like girders or metal poles and even impale your enemies, making them temporarily immobile unless they tap the square button to pull it out, but then they can throw it at you and even impale you, and then you'd be immobile. Let's say that to the game's credit, everything does feel fair, so if you mess up, it's usually from your own doing. But some characters feel more powerful than others. I mean, the giant praying mantis known as Praetor and the energetic eyeball known as Connecticlops were by far the most powerful characters I use, especially Connecticlops. Well, it's not really a matter of what characters are more powerful, but more your skill level with them, since each character has their own advantages and disadvantages. Some characters can fly, some cannot. Some have better short-range attacks, and others have better long-range attacks. It's all a matter of choice and how you use it. So, Connecticlops and Praetor I wouldn't say are the most powerful, but the most beginner-friendly since they're pretty powerful enough.
Some characters have powerful combos, like for example, if you play as Togera, press X and square when your special attack meter is red to unleash a nuclear blast that works best against opponents within a short range distance. When the blue meter is full, press triangle and circle at the same time for a special attack, like for Connecticlops, it's an electrical charge that spreads to nearby enemies. For Praetor, it's like a parasite thing that drains the enemy's life away. Each monster has a triangle, circle, and square X attack, unique to its own power type. There are many moves and combos you can execute with each monsters, which is why I highly recommend glancing at the instructions manual before playing the game. I know it's tedious, but if you don't have the manual, you can always look it up online and download it from a PDF file. There's also GameFAQs.com too, but anyways. Now you may ask, what's the story of the game? Does it even have a story? Well, there is a campaign adventure mode for each monster, and in the campaign, each monster's origin is revealed, and all of the monsters have an origin connected to the UFO crashing in the intro sequence.
I won't reveal their origins because that is kind of the reward for completing each monster's campaign in adventure mode. So, if you want to know their origins, either look it up on the internet or find out for yourself with this game.
Now in the campaign mode, you battle many monsters with certain types of challenges ahead of you. Some of the monsters are extremely challenging to defeat, so choose your monster wisely. When playing War of the Monsters, you'll likely be spending most of your time in the Versus mode, and this multiplayer mode steals the show. Now for the younger viewers out there, this multiplayer is completely offline. It's that old. Ooh, ancient. Ha, I kid the younger audience. I respect you guys. But anyways, if you want to have fun with the multiplayer, invite a friend over and insert a second controller. My friend Justin from the Film Strip Arcade invited me to his house, and we spent hours on the multiplayer, where he played as the robot with a jetpack known as Ultra V. I played as Connecticlops, and we had two other computer-controlled enemies, and we basically were playing in unlimited mode, where the game keeps track of each player's kill total, and the game goes until we deem it over. With Connecticlops, I got like 50 kills, while Justin, his character Ultra V, got like 20 kills. But anyways, all the monsters were on their own, so there were no teams, and it was so much fun until we destroyed all the buildings in the city, and then we just chose a new map because, let's face it, it's no fun when all the buildings collapsed. Because destroying the last building is like eating the last french fry from the bottom of the fast food bag. But anyways, for single player and multiplayer, the camera is great in the game, simply. I mean, in multiplayer, the split screen divides the screen vertically, not horizontally. But if the two players are close, the screens would merge into one, which is a really neat camera mechanic, but it sometimes threw me off when I attempted to perform like a combo. But it's no big deal since that's mainly my fault and not the game's. Now, War of the Monsters, graphically speaking, the game still looks good to this day, although the textures are pretty dated and aren't up to snuff with today's games. But the monsters still look pretty good, and the graphics, I'll say, are good for PS2 standards. But if you're a gamer like me, you value gameplay over graphics. Although, if you value graphics over gameplay, then Assassin's Creed Unity and Battlefield 4 must be the best games you ever played. Now the game, musically speaking, well, that's kind of the weakest aspect of the game. I mean, I give a lot of credit to the orchestra that performed these tracks, and they are really good, but not exactly MP3 player worthy. But it's reminiscent of a classic monster movie from the 1950s where the orchestra plays while the monsters destroy the city or fight each other. So, for conveying a sense of atmosphere, the game's music does a good job of that, but like I said, I would not put this music in my MP3 player, but music is a very subjective form of taste, so who am I to judge? Now, you may ask, how well did this game age? Well, like I said, it looks like a PS2 game and plays like a PS2 game, but it's still a lot of fun to play today. I mean, a 9-year-old kid could go into this game and have the same amount of fun as much as the kid back in 2003 did. So while the game shows some sign of age, the game still holds up very well and is a lot of fun to play. So overall, I would give War of the Monsters an 86 out of 100. Arena fighting games give you hours of non-stop action, and this game is no exception. While it's not in my top 20 PS2 games, keep in mind the PS2 had hundreds of excellent games. It's definitely one of my favorite multiplayer experiences on the PS2, and I highly recommend seeking out a copy. It should be relatively cheap and is available on the PlayStation Network. Although my friend Justin couldn't find it on the PlayStation Network on his PlayStation Vita, so it's probably either on the PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4. Although, sadly, War of the Monsters did not sell as well as Incognito and Sony were hoping for, which is why they canceled the planned sequel. It's too bad, since you would think that the company that made the fan favorite Twisted Metal Black would gain more support for War of the Monsters in terms of consumer trust. Like Earthbound, although the game didn't sell well, it does have a dedicated cult following, especially among monster fighting gamers who enjoyed the likes of Rampage on Godzilla. Maybe it's the poor marketing, but hopefully this game would gain more respect. It's available on the PlayStation Network, thankfully, so maybe it'll pull a Shantae where it would gain like a decade later sequel if, like, say an indie company would pick it up since Sony's not using the license. But it's 12 years since 2003, I don't know, but let's have faith, we can only hope. I mean, Rocket Knight got a 15-year later sequel. It's too bad, really. I mean, this game is very functional, and heck, they even got loading screens right. I mean, they're like movie posters, they're fake, but it's kind of a nice touch.
Now, before I go, let's take a look at the manual. I mean, it looks like a magazine from the 1950s. And it's a really nice touch. I just wanted to point that out there. Anyways, thank you so much for watching my review of War of the Monsters. And remember to stay awesome, my friends.
On behalf of the SideQuest Gamer Gaming channel, let me give a huge shout out to Kenny Galbraith for loaning me and Justin the game. You are so awesome, and game on, my friend. Can we give a huge round of applause to Mr. Galbraith, please? Alright, now that's what I'm talking about. Thank you, Mr. Galbraith, and remember to stay awesome.